Hey everybody, Stu Smith here, going live, taking some questions, giving some answers. We will also go over some CSS videos that I received yesterday and today. Um, but first, I wrote an article up on StuSmithFitness.com. You guys should check it out. It's a pretty fun one. Just got me thinking about just people who endured things that really had no business enduring them. And what I mean by that is, you know, people playing sports that weren't athletes. They just worked their ass off to make a team and, were one of the better players on the team just by pure heart. So, they may not have had any physical talent, but they were just tough and tenacious. But that in itself is a talent, right? So tenacity is a talent. Persistence Matters is the name of this article. And what got me thinking about it was just some high school football um, things that I could recall. And I remember we had this 150-pound lineman, right? Believe it or not, it was a 150-pound lineman. And he was one of the best blockers on the team because he would do anything he could to put his body in front of the quarterback to prevent, you know, the defensive lineman who was probably 70 pounds bigger than him on average coming in, getting to the quarterback. And it was just unbelievable. And the coach loved him. Coach was like, I wish I had 10 more just like you. And, that was the guy you wanted to be. And you wanted to be the guy that was just tough as nails, always hurt, never stopped playing a play, and just gutted it out to a point where he would just do whatever he could to win, and keep moving. Saw that at Buds too. Saw some people at Buds that were just, I mean, we had this one kid in our Buds class that was probably 3 or 4% body fat, super skinny kid. Had, you could see his muscles. He had some muscles on him, but he was probably 140 pounds, soaking wet. And when I looked at him and saw how cold he was, I realized that I was not cold compared to what he was. And it just gave you some understanding of what people go through. And sometimes it's harder on others than it is yourself. And sometimes it's harder on you than others. And that is just one of the things that really comes down to how bad you really want something. You can endure a whole lot of suck if you really want it. And to test that over time, you have to be persistent with your training and your preparation to a point where, yes, you might be motivated to go do this job, but you're not going to be motivated to go train every single day to one day maybe be able to do this job, right? Or whatever physical goal that is. So your persistence will help you get through those days when you just don't feel like working out, and that motivation evolves into discipline. Those habits that you created while you were motivated, will help you build the type of persistence that you need. And then eventually you will be more mentally tough, more tenacious, um, and just able to endure so much more than you perceived previously. Um, that's what reminded me of this, or I should say, that's what motivated me to write this article. And mainly it was, failure is not the end. You know, when you're going on these challenging journeys, uh, with really hard goals in the future, to and through type level of preparation, um, you're going to fail along the way. You're going to fail. You're going to have to learn from it. You're going to have to do better the next time. Um, You know, sometimes you get 3 strikes and you're out type of deal. So you got to really buckle down, learn the tactic that you're trying to accomplish, and keep on moving through training. That is how it works. So I do. We'll take some questions. I'm going to show some videos too as well. So please send them if you have them. Looks like we have T is sending in a question from shipping 18X in August, and I'm worried about losing fitness during OSUT. You have any recommendations maintaining prison style workouts? Yeah, you can work out during OSUT. We had guys that do that. You know, it's much better than the Navy problems that they have. Um, you know, with boot camp getting you deconditioned prior to SEAL, EOD, SWIC type training, you know, after boot camp. But you definitely have time in the Army pipeline. In fact, I just had a guy email me the other day who is waiting for the next SFAS class or SFRE class, and he is, you know, he's got time to work out on his own at the end of the day and top off, you know, his training. So you will have time to train prior to it. You know, you'll go through airborne as well. You know, those time at the end of the day. I mean, they're long days and you're going to be tired. That's the problem sometimes with some of these training programs is that you have long days where you haven't really done a whole lot physically. You're just tired from standing around all day, maybe a little dehydrated for sitting out in the sun, but you need to focus on your fuel, focus on your hydration and electrolytes, and work to have enough energy at the end of the day to top off your workouts so you don't get deconditioned at the end of the day, you know, at the end of a OSUT or, you know, next level training that you're doing. But there's going to be some pipeline training that you have in that 18X that's going to help you prepare for the selection process as well. Let's see. Any other questions? I may let's go right into a CSS sharing here. Let me see if I can share my screen. Make sure this is shared. There we go. Looks good. All right, so let's see what this guy's doing. See how his pullout looked. So kick off the wall. Looks pretty streamlined. Could probably keep his head down a little more, biceps closer to his ears. But that's kind of nitpicky. That will make you a little better streamlined off the wall. Double arm pull, not bad. Let's see if he grabs water out in front of him. You want to grab water out in front of you like that. Yeah, not bad. Not bad. And you see how those arms are vertical right there? Forearms are vertical. That's treating your arm like a paddle is basically what that is. And then you want to push it even further. But he didn't really hold the glide long. Like he could have stayed in this glide position. He could have stayed in that glide position right there for probably another couple of yards. But he chose to go ahead and start stroking. So he missed out on a couple of yards and he was a little bit short of this marker for his first breath. I like to try to use this as my minimum standard for kickoffs for my first breath. My face is either going to be right there whenever I come up for my first breath or past it. Top, bottom, kick. Good scissor kick. Got a little extra flutter kicks, don't need. Top arm, bottom arm, kick, hold the glide. Let me see what he's got here. Probably easier on the way back. See what he's got. So far, technique looks pretty good. So let me see. Oh, good. So one thing that I recommend watching here is notice whenever that top arm is pulling, his face is coming out of the water. Then all he has to do is a really short arm pull underneath, like a breaststroke skull, while he inhales, because his face is ready there, ready to inhale now. Perfect. And it's a really short, just a breaststroke skull versus a full arm stroke all the way down to your belly. Just a short skull. I mean, you can go down a little lower if you want. Some people like using that whole arm as a stroke. I have done it that way, have taught it that way. I've just found that this is a lot more efficient, um, depending on who you are. Um, like I said, some people teach it with a full arm stroke on the bottom, and I would say I'm somewhere in the middle versus, not doing anything other than this. I like to come down like a full breaststroke and come up. So the top arm's a freestyle, bottom arm's a breaststroke. Come up and recover together like a breaststroke. So there you go. Top arm, bottom arm, kick, hold the glide. Let's try to hold the glide without the flutter kick. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, pull. Come on. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, pull. Yeah, you could hold the glide a little bit longer. Take out those flutter kicks. That's a lot of flutter kicking you're doing. Not that I think it's going to be totally exhausting for you, but it's just a lot of extra flutter kicks. Let's see. Meat is expensive. Are there any cheaper sources of protein you would recommend? My suggestion, Jefferson, is learn how to shop better. Because let me tell you why. I just had a shopper's high. I went to the grocery store and went to 2 different grocery stores, 3 if you consider the day before, just looking at prices, meat prices, because you're right. Meat is stupid expensive. Most times, if you can find a good steak like ribeye, chuck eye, T-bone, um, that's tends of where I focus on. I like those styles of meat. Um, for under $10 a pound, that's a win. Um, I just found T-bones for $5.77 a pound in our local grocery store. But here's the deal: if it's $12 a pound, I skip right over it, and I go to chicken or I go to pork. Sometimes you can go to the fish area and find some salmon or tuna over there. That is where I opt to get other sources of protein in. However, you can also get yourself some powdered protein and add to your end of the day protein intake or beginning of the day protein intake with a shake after a workout. I would recommend that as an option. Mm, but there's also some good grains out there. Quinoa is a good source of protein. I just bought some Kodiak cookies. I think they're Kodiak, but the cookies actually have 5-6 grams of protein in each one of them. Odd for a cookie, but plenty of plant-based and meat-based out there. So be a better shopper. You can find some good deals, but it just may take some effort, either looking in the newspaper, online ads, or just finding some of the stuff that might be. This is where I get a lot of my meats too. Is its last day to be in the store, and they reduce the price significantly. But only issue is you got to cook it that day, so you can't buy a whole lot of that kind of meat. But I go to the grocery store every day anyway, just looking for those type of deals. So hope that answers your question in multiple ways there. Let's see. So I'm looking for, if you guys are online, looking for topics to write about. You guys had some good ideas yesterday. I will probably use one of or two of those from yesterday's um, mindset work show. Basically, on Mondays, what I do is I talk about the upcoming week in a way of like how I made my workouts and their splits. And this week being a Murph and also a lift week, it was a little bit different, required some special juggling. Um, and so that's what I talk about on Mondays, how I'm creating my workouts and what type of method I'm using that week and why. So, so right now I'm using a block periodization model. So if you're not familiar with what that is, that's uh, this right here, spring training. This is kind of the model we're doing, where 3 weeks of a 4 week cycle is 3 weeks of calisthenics and cardio, followed by 1 week of lifting, little running deload. Because each week of the calisthenics cardio phase, we are progressing our running mileage, trying to peak probably late July and August. But this 1 week right here just happens to be a little bit of a deload week for us, where we'll reduce our mileage by probably 30% from our normal progression, lift a little, just to maintain some of our gains from the winter, see where our strength is. After this is our third or fourth cycle of 4 weeks of like that. So we started in the spring and we'll probably continue this throughout the summer as well, because I found it to be very helpful with just a lot fewer running style injuries. Because if you're progressing, every week getting more and more miles, um, you know, the that can be, even if you use a 15% increase progression, it can build up to a point where you're hurting yourself. So anyway, we pull back every fourth week just to lick our wounds and try to get a little stronger with some weights. It's a good concept and it works. It's called block periodization. I didn't make it up. I just happened to apply a method to my seasonal tactical fitness periodization model, which is like this, the spring summer program. The only difference is I don't have a block periodization model with it. That's a steady progression, um, with supplemental non-impact cardio when you need it and supplemental weight training in the days um, throughout the cycle. So it's still maintaining your strength, but you're focused more on your calisthenics and cardio. Still the same overall system, just a different way to rearrange some of those workouts, um, with recovery in mind, with injury prevention in mind. Because when you're pushing your limits pretty hard on some of these workouts and some of the time that you've invested in some of these longer workouts. And when I say longer, it's not because you're in the weight room for hours. You're running, you're rucking, you're swimming, you're doing pyramids and high rep calisthenics that just take time. So they seem to be a little bit, both ways work. Just depends on what you need, really. Because sometimes every fourth week or so, it's nice to do a little modified deload to where just let your body recover from what you've been focusing hard on for 3 weeks, but not to a point where you're doing nothing. You're just focusing on a different element of fitness for a week to maintain what you did over the winter. Because in the winter, we did the same thing in reverse. We went 3 weeks of strength training, followed by a 1 week deload from the weight room where we just did calisthenics and cardio. A little bit of running, not a whole lot, but just to keep the cardio up. So there you go. Many ways to do this. I tell people all the time that I have a way to do it, not the way to do it. So it may work for you. Never know. Check it out. Stu Smith Fitness. What are some good breathing drills to help keep a steady breathing pattern while running? Practice intentional breathing while you're running. A lot of times, runners or people who are running just breathe just to breathe, and there goes all over the place. Sounds like they're hyperventilating when they're doing it. So, what I would recommend doing is um, setting it up very similar to the way you would set it up with swimming. So, when I swim, I'm swimming. If I'm swimming freestyle, I'm going to swim every 4 strokes, take a breath. 4 strokes, take a breath. But when I'm running, I probably take 3 steps of an inhale. Depends on how fast I'm running. Sometimes it's 2. So 3 steps of an inhale, 2 steps exhale. So I breathe in through my nose, out my mouth. But as the speed gets higher and higher and you're really putting out, you may find that you need to breathe through any hole that takes air. And you may have to use your mouth. But if you can go just nose breathing, that's great. Here's the problem, though. If you're doing a lot of swimming, you're swimming with a mask, you have to also learn how to be a mouth breather. So, when I say it's good to do both, that's why it's good to do both. You need to diversify. Sometimes you have stuffy nose, you can't do nose breathing, so you got to breathe through your mouth. So that's what I do. But there's so many different ways. If you Google breathing during running, you can find some different cadences, that have short strides that may be a little higher on the inhales and faster on the exhale. You may get some recommendations to breathe through your nose, out your mouth, some recommendations to breathe in and out of your nose. I don't see too many out there where they're breathing in and out of their mouth anymore. Seems to be, from the studies and the science, they say breathe through your nose. In fact, if you read this book, The Oxygen Advantage, highly recommend it. Patrick McEwen, all about nose breathing and the importance of nose breathing. Another one, talk about oxygen, The Oxygen Revolution. Now, this one's about hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Another really good one. So, as you can see, I kind of try to get good at breathing. I mean, I've been breathing every day of my life, so might as well get good at it. And get efficient at it, and it will only help you. All right, so let's see. Looks like I don't have any new questions here. Let me go to a share screen. Oh, let me pull up another video first. I think this one might be with fins. Nope, without fins. All right, different guy. All right, let me know. All right, looks like you got it. Say decent. Kick off the wall, coming up, yellow marker. Boom. All right, so I don't know if you notice this. You notice this? A lot of people do this. For some reason, they think they're doing the scissor kick, but they're actually doing, starts off with a scissor kick here, right? Starts off with a scissor kick right there, right? Looks like you're about to do a scissor kick. However, right at the end, kind of rotate your hips and you wind up doing a breaststroke kick. And now the feet come in together like that. See how he's pushing water with the inside of his foot like he's kicking a soccer ball? That is more of a breaststroke, and you can see it. Wish I had slow motion here. That would be awesome. So top arm, bottom arm kick, and it's a breaststroke kick. He just starts off on his side looking like a scissor kick, and it turns into a breaststroke kick. Now, the good news is it's not really slowing him down that much. He's got a pretty good scissor kick or breaststroke kick. I think he needs to learn how to do a scissor kick properly, or make this look like a full breaststroke. So he's actually engaging his hips properly the entire stroke versus starting off as a scissor kick, rolling over in the middle of his scissor kick and turning it into a breaststroke kick by that 90-degree rotation almost of his hips. So that is something that is very common. So my suggestion would be actually do a full breaststroke, or stay on your side and do a scissor kick. And during the glide, 2 to 3 seconds, that's when you roll over slowly, either on your belly or a 45-degree angle. You can roll over that way if you want. I tend to like somewhere right in the middle, like a good 45-degree angle. Let's see, Stu, for the guys you train, how early into training do you urge guys to start diving or getting dive lessons to prepare for pool comp in second phase? It really has nothing to do with the amount of training that they have. Some guys come into training already with a PADI scuba certification. Some guys don't, and then they eventually do. It really comes down to not so much their training, but it comes down to how much time they have to take a PADI certification course. Can they fit it into their work schedule? Can they fit it into their new training schedule and all that? So we usually set up a deal with the guy down the street from us who actually taught me how to scuba dive when I was 18 years old. When I was a midshipman, he had the contract at the Naval Academy, and he's probably one of the most prolific dive instructors, at least on the East Coast, if not the world. I think he's trained more guys in scuba than pretty much anybody else. Um, so my guys go there. They give them a good deal. They get their scuba fins from there too. So it's nice to have a local scuba shop in the area where you can try things on and do all that. So he's very helpful to our guys and usually puts them through their own training group as well. But yeah, I really don't have a particular time on when I recommend guys do dive lessons. I would recommend doing it. I did it. I've probably been scuba diving since I was 13, and then didn't really start training for, buds until I was 19. So just don't think it matters. But I would recommend it. It was nice to be in dive phase and not be unfamiliar with the regulator in your mouth breathing underwater. Provided you can swim a CSS with fins properly, scissor kick, constant kicking, is there anything wrong with using a breaststroke kick with your CSS? No. I'm faster using breaststroke kick without fins. No, I don't think there is at all. Um, every now and then I have heard people say you can't do a breaststroke kick with the CSS, and that's really somebody who just made up an arbitrary rule about the CSS, because there's nothing about the CSS that says you can't use a breaststroke kick or you have to use a scissor kick. Just be aware, if you get told that, it's an arbitrary rule that they just want to see how you handle it. So for instance, another arbitrary rule is you can't do a breaststroke pullout off the wall. You can't wear goggles during the 500-yard swim. Now, this is the Navy testing you. You can't, you got to stay facing the instructor on the side of the pool the whole time. So that means every length you have to change strong, weak side. See what else I've heard in the few days. There's just been so many of those things. So I've, back when they had the mentor program, one of the local mentors here I knew since I was 18 years old, he said that by throwing like a curveball at people who are in the recruit process, you can actually get people to quit right there on uh, on the spot. So, for instance, um, he was telling me one of his stories that he changed the push-up rules just slightly. So instead of having a fist like this, he went fist flat. You got to go a little bit deeper and touch your partner's hand on a flat deck. And a guy wasn't doing it right, and he got up and just left, quit, never came back. So I think a lot of times they throw these arbitrary rules out there just to see how you handle them, right? There's somebody going to be in charge of making the rules, and you have to be able to suck it up and handle it and do it. So there you go. That's my theory on arbitrary rules and rules that just don't make any damn sense. What level PADI certification do you recommend? It doesn't matter, John. Basic. I mean, the more you can get, the better. I think rescue diver would be a good one, but I don't think you need to be a master diver. Do they still do 8-count bodybuilders at Buds and Recon? Good question. I don't know. I would assume it's a classic. They may have pulled it into burpees. I did have somebody tell me the other day that they were doing 8 counts at Buds, but it's not so common that it's something that you have to get good at mastering. It was just one of those events that they like introduced to and did it a few times. If you were at Buds right now, what would your nightly routine be? Nutrition, hydration, recovery tools. Good question. Well, first of all, I will tell you my actual nightly routine when I was at Buds, um, minus the recovery tools because we had none. I mean, I wish I would have thought to use a carb buffer as a massage tool. I wish I would have thought, well, I wish I would have thought to use a PVC pipe or something to roll out sore muscles, with a foam roller. But I didn't. Those things didn't exist in that manner. Um, Probably would have done more massage tooling if I'd have really uh, thought about it because they did have those, but I just never used them. So nutrition, you're going to eat dinner, and then after dinner, I always had a snack. An hour, 2 hours later, I typically had some beef, rice, beans that I cooked up, from the night before or that day and ate them as a little evening snack. Always had an extra banana on hand to have a banana before I went to bed, and then just constantly hydrate. I mean, it was a gallon a day easy, maybe even a gallon and a half of water that I was consuming. And then just try to get in a decent sleep, some good sleep hygiene, so to speak. So a certain time of the night, lights were out, no more screens. We had computers. We didn't have. I had a laptop back then, but it was an old clunky one, so it wasn't connected to internet or anything. Um, didn't have phones, uh, so didn't have those type of distractions. But you know, still had TVs, and those could be distracting. Um, so shut off the TV, maybe read a magazine or a book or something for 15, 20 minutes, and then just put your head on the pillow and fall asleep. I did also have earplugs, especially if you had a roommate, that person snored. It was nice to be able to just have earplugs in your ears and be able to fall asleep. So there you go. Yeah, I always joke around that lima beans and rice, was my go-to snack at the end of the day. Hey Stu, if I need to improve my push-ups, sit-ups, and overall cardio endurance, which one of your programs would you recommend? Spring training or complete guide, third edition? Spring training, complete guide's good. PT cardio cycle, spring, summer. Um, if you're kind of a beginner, I would, or intermediate level, I would suggest calisthenics and cardio. I don't think I have a copy of that here. Nope, I don't have a copy of that here. But eventually, if you're trying to put it all together, that's a good one too. The Navy SEAL EOD diver workout also applies to SWIC too. Joe asks, do they do jumping jacks before PFTs? Nope. I mean, I guess you do some kind of warm up, but it's usually you're warming up on your own, so it doesn't really matter. Uh, 4 count exercises. Yeah, 1,000. Yeah, I won't lie to you. We did 1,000 4 count jumping jacks, and it just so happened one of my instructors had a fetish with 1,000. So we did 1,000 flutter kicks, 4 count flutter kicks. We did 1,000 jumping jacks, 1,000 8 count bodybuilders. It was just something they did. 1,000 push-ups, 1,000 sit-ups. That was a day. That was a bloody grinder. And it was funny because we were just doing sit-ups on the grinder, and he was reading a newspaper while we're doing sit-ups at the same time. I mean, it was sadistic. So he was reading a newspaper and doing sit-ups. Because it took like 45 minutes to do that many sit-ups. Now, do they do that now? Probably not. I haven't heard of the same fascination with 1,000 that I've heard back in my day. So, um, but it is a nice little gut check. And it's a nice little drill for you to go to your happy place in your brain and just get stuff done. Because there's a moment when you're going through buds every single day where you're just going to have to endure a monotonous exercise for a long period of time, whether that's just sitting in the leaning rest for 45 minutes, not doing anything. That sucks. So your ability to go to that little happy place and just kind of dissociate of what's going on, at least internally, um, is a good skill to practice. And doing those type of exercises is one way to do that. Not the only way to do that. It's definitely one way to do that. I'm wondering what you'd recommend me replace 400-meter runs with in the PT pyramid, since I can't efficiently do these with my gym's layout. Right now I'm doing jump rope. Jump rope's fine. How long does it take you to run 400 meters? Let's say 90 seconds. 90 to 100 seconds. Then do that amount of time on some other form of cardio. So you could do that with a bike. If you have a bike nearby, you could do it on a treadmill, if that makes sense. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. Just skip it and just save all your runs to the end of the workout. I mean, I would say this: if you need to work on your running, don't necessarily replace it with biking or jump rope. Nothing wrong to do that sometimes, but if you're missing out on 10 or even more 400-meter runs in a PT pyramid, you need to make those up individually later on. Maybe just do your pull-ups and sit-ups, for instance, inside, and then go do your push-ups and run outside. Perhaps a gross question, but how likely is Vij and Sipe? They're pretty likely. Certain people on the internet forums make it seem like plagues every buds class, but can we do to avoid both? Um, Vij is a guess a virus, bacterial type virus. I don't know what the hell it is. It's probably swimming in nasty water. My advice is don't put water in your mouth if you can avoid that. That is one way to do it. Every time you're in the ocean, at the end of the day, make sure you are cleaning yourself thoroughly. Whether it's a decontamination shower or it's, at the end of the day, you are cleaning yourself thoroughly. Sipe's a whole different animal. Sipe is swimmer-induced pulmonary edema, which basically just means water on your lungs. And it could basically turn into pneumonia. It can make you a heat casualty because you're not able to cool yourself down, and then that turns into rhabdo. It's a vicious cycle if you get that. Um, what a lot of people do is, unfortunately, when they get fitted for their wetsuits, you don't want one where you can't do this in a good glide position. If it feels like it's cutting off your circulation right here, then you need to get a bigger wetsuit, because sometimes if you're like this and you already feel like you're getting cut off, what happens is when you restrict the blood flow up here while you're trying to inhale and exhale, that starts jacking up the whole system to where it's not really expelling all the uh, water in your lungs, or so to speak, or vapor, right? And so that vapor kind of gets stuck in there, turns into a form of pneumonia, kind of. That's a very generalized version of what that is. I would definitely recommend Googling what SIPE is. You can see there are some things that triathletes do to help prevent it. It's definitely a swimmer problem, open water swimming problem, colder water, tighter wetsuits, those type of issues. And depending on the stroke, sometimes if you can just kick more and not use both arms as much, sometimes that can help you prevent it as well. So, yeah, take a look at the SIPE information online. In fact, I've written a couple articles about it and um, linked some good studies in there as well. The Vicious Snowball of SIPE. Jeff Nichols and I did a podcast on SIPE, heat casualty, and pneumonia. That's Tactical Fitness Report 186. Let's see. I know I wrote an article on it. There's an article I wrote, when to start training after rhabdo, and this one just happened to be he got SIPE, had a heat stroke, got rhabdo. Has some tips in there about SIPE as well. Let me see if military.com has any of my articles on SIPE. Yeah, they're out there, but I would suggest going to Tactical Fitness Report 186. You can find that on this YouTube channel. Just scroll through the videos, or you can search Tactical Fitness Report TFR 186, and you'll find that one about SIPE. Would you recommend using resting positions when doing long sets of push-ups? Does doing 70 push-ups with periods in resting count as doing 70s in a single set? I would do long periods of leaning rest. Absolutely. We do something called death by push-ups, and it's really death by plank if you think about it, or up position, where you hold a 10-minute up push-up or plank pose, and every minute on the minute you do 10 push-ups. In fact, I'm going to do this next summer seminar at the Naval Academy, and that's one of our workouts that I do with 800 high school kids right there, and I crush them on that one. It's really a fun one to do. Sometimes you got to go to your knees. I let them do it because they're just high school kids, but I'm sitting up there in the plank position the whole time talking to them, and every minute on the minute we do a push-up or push-ups, and it's a fun little challenge, and they feel pretty accomplished after doing it. Actually, main reason why we do that now is that there's no longer sit-ups in the Navy fitness test. Talking regular Navy, it's a plank pose and push-ups. So, death by push-ups makes a lot of sense to prepare for that part of the test. However, if you're still trying out for PST exercises or PST needed jobs, that's still pull-up, push-up, sit-ups. So, ever do the SAS 40-mile march? Do Green Berets or Delta do something similar? I have not personally done that far with a ruck. I've gone probably 25 with a ruck. Green Berets and Delta absolutely do something very similar. I don't know what their number is on that, but much of the Delta Force program is modeled after the SAS program. And I tell you what, every Brit I know is a stud at rucking, period. I haven't met one that's bad at it. I mean, they are really good at rucking. Impressed me anyway. All right, let's see. How's the Spec Ops try? We had a good one, Zach. We did 3 of them the month of May, so it was a lot of fun. And we're going to go back to a normal run, ruck, swim model. The rest of the summer. So probably 2-mile run, 2-mile ruck, 1-mile swim, or a 4-mile run, 1-mile swim, or a 4-mile ruck, 1-mile swim. Just depends on the day. Do I think creatine would be good as addition to your programs? I'd be honest with you, I wouldn't get on creatine, especially if you're going to join the military. If you are using that, you have to really make sure you are hydrated. I tell you, one of the worst things I've seen is creatine in the summer using my workouts, because I've seen people bilateral cramping, full body cramping. They just misuse their creatine for the type of workouts they're doing. It's not really built for high repetitions, high mileage, hot, humid environments. It's almost impossible to keep up with the hydration without the creatine, much less beyond the creatine. Look, I have some right here. I mean, this is creatine from Thorne. It is something that, depending on what I am doing, I will use some. I bought these for my son. He is working, 19 years old and trying to get jacked, I think. So he's not trying to join the military as of right now. And you're not allowed to use supplements in the military anyway, at least during selection. Once you're in the military, different story. But if you're going through a selection program, you cannot use supplements. Rangers, they won't let you. SEAL buds, they won't let you. That's just the way it is. I am just learning to swim, and I don't know where to start. There's not a pool around me. Should I start swimming in a lake nearby? I would not. If you're just learning to swim, open water swimming is a bad idea. Unless it's a nice, clear lake, safe, shallow. Probably need to find a pool somehow. You could do something by get a swim bungee, maybe. I don't know if you ever heard of the swim bungee. Highly recommend it. When the pools closed here for COVID, I started using a swim bungee in a backyard pool, and it basically turned my 20-foot pool into an endless pool because I just hung on this rubber band and just swam. right? I never had to turn around, never touched a wall. But it's called the Swim Bungee. Let me see if I can find that thing. Bungee cord swimming. Yeah, this is it. Like 15 bucks. It's incredible. So I'll put this in the comment section here. You just go to Amazon and type in swim bungee, and you'll find um, what I'm talking about. That would be safer for you. What you would do is you would tie it to the end of a pier or something, so you're not swimming all the way across the pool and or lake and forget how to swim and drown. So that would be a safer option for you. But check out, for those of you who don't know, you can always go to oh, that's not it. Where is it? There we go. You can always go to my TikTok. This YouTube channel that I'm talking on has probably 100 CSS videos on them, but there's 500 other videos that you got to sift through. You can find some of the lists that are all swimming related. But if you go to my TikTok, StuSmith50, it is nothing but me doing voiceover critiques of people submitted swim videos. Probably well over 100 in there right now. I highly recommend going to that if you're trying to learn how to swim the CSS. But I just wanted to make it real easy, like a one-stop shop for swimming, instead of going to something you got to sift through days worth of other posts. Like my Instagram has some CSS on there, but it's got a whole bunch of other stuff on there too. And it's kind of pain in the ass to just wait for the next swim workout to scroll up. But TikTok is not like that. You can keep doing it. Should I repeat 12 weeks to buds? And if so, how often? A lot of people repeat it twice, so maybe take the spring and summer and do it twice. However, after doing it for 6 months, because that's 6 months there, 24 weeks, I would suggest working, assessing yourself and working on other weaknesses. Um, maybe go through a little strength cycle in there and, make sure you can handle the boats and the logs and rucking, because 12 weeks to buds does not have any rucking in it. So you may want to add some rucking to it. Doesn't have any weightlifting in it either. Depending on your athletic history, you may need to lift weights to get a little stronger. How many hours of sleep do you get when you're in the SEAL community? Depends. Depends on your operational tempo. Depends on your training. A lot of times, we do a lot of night dives. So we're on a night shift schedule. So we get zero sleep at night, but we sleep, for 6 to 8 hours during the day, which is awkward. So but you got to get used to it. Regarding the swim bungee, you know what? You can only assume that every fifth stroke you're going to do 25 meters. My best recommendation, instead of having to do the math like that, is just use time. So if you're swimming 50 meters in 1 minute, there you go. Every minute equals 50 meters. So is there a way to train for boats and logs without a boat and log? Yes, there is a workout I wrote called the Sam Baby Murph. And if you look at it, it is actually a 40 to 50 pound sandbag doing all of the exercises that you typically do with a log. So for instance, there's push presses, there's chest carry lunges, there's shoulder carry squats, there's chest carry sit-ups, and there's chest carry running, or you can do shoulder carry running, or you can do head carry running um, for certain sets. So I would suggest pretending that you have a log or a boat with that 40 to 50 pound sandbag and go through the events of what log PT and boat carries are. A few more minutes. I got to go. What do you make of NSW's human performance test? I love it. What sort of numbers should we be looking for on the test ideally? If you take a look at the assessment tool I wrote, it deals with many of those events. You can see that there. It has other events as well for it. I also wrote an article about tactical fitness tests. And these, if you're going to be taking tactical fitness tests, these two programs here are really built around their own tactical fitness test. And if you notice, the ones I wrote well over 10 years ago are very similar to this human performance test in the Navy. It's a deadlift, it's a weighted pull up, it's a bench press, it's a shuttle run, it's a pro agility test, some type of agility test. And typically, depending on which one it is, it's either a run, ruck, or swim, or two of the three. But yeah, check that out. Those programs are right there what you need for any human performance test. But read that article. It's really good because you'll see all the similarities between the branches and their human performance / tactical fitness tests and how they've evolved in the last 10 years or so. How many miles should you work up to running per week before buds, and how many rucking, and how much weight? I seem to answer this question every week. And the answer is it depends. Some people need more mileage than others. Some people need to work on their strength and their mass. Especially if you're coming from a cross country world, you don't need to be running 70 miles a week like you used to. Probably drop that down to 25 and work on speed versus long, slow distance. However, if you're coming from a strength background, you may need to run more, not even touch a weight, and pick up your volume a little bit to the 35, maybe even 40 miles a week zone. I personally did that. I was somewhere between 35 and 40 miles a week. I didn't lift a single weight for about a year prior to buds. All I did was calisthenics, run, and swim, and some rucks, but it was only a few. Because back then we didn't ruck in first phase. We only rucked in third phase. Though I just heard they took out rucking for first phase. So might not see it until second and third phase again. So it depends. I would say anywhere between 25 and 40. And that is solely dependent on your athletic history. So if you're a strength, put it this way. When I was going through buds, I didn't lift weights for a year. Like I said, all I did was run up to 35, 40 miles a week. I never once wished I had lifted weights prior to buds. I wished I had run my 40 miles faster. So I probably could have pulled back to 30 had I made sub 7-minute mile runs easier. So I would say I was at a 7-minute mile, but it was a little bit of a gut check for me to break a 7-minute mile. So when I hit 26:30 on a 4-mile timed run, that was all out. And I didn't have much to give after that. Like the other events after the 4-mile timed run that day, I was pretty smoked and didn't perform as well. So if you can run that 7-minute miles easy, that's going to make your 4-mile timed runs every week so much nicer because it's not something you have to sweat. I had to really sweat. Like if I ran it easy, I'd probably be at the 29-30 minute zone, which is flirting with failure if you're in third phase. So, running for me was the gut check. So there you go. Long answer to that question. I apologize. All right, last question. Rod Stewart. Let's see. I've hit a plateau with my push-ups and it feels like I can't get any more no matter how hard I'm trying. Should I try weighted push-ups or should I try to maintain my numbers? You know what? Mix it up a little bit. I have 3 workouts I like to do. 3 favorite workouts to crush fitness tests. And when I say that, it's primarily pull-up, push-ups, and sit-ups for the calisthenics part. And that is a pyramid, it's a sub-max rep set, and it's a max rep set. If you do those 3 workouts, or at least the max rep set once a week. So at the end of the week, you've done 3 upper body days, but that third one is a max rep set workout. Highly recommend doing that because it's going to push you over your perceived limitations every set. So what you try to do is you do a set of pull-ups, push-ups, sit-ups till you can't do pull-ups, push-ups, and sit-ups in that 2-minute time limit every set until you reach like a Murph level. So you reach 100 pull-ups, you reach 200 push-ups, and you reach 300 sit-ups. That's a good workout. You do that once a week. The other 2 workouts aren't quite that hard, but that's the money maker. That's the one I've seen people who stuck at 75 and get 100. It's not for people who are stuck below 50 and trying to get 75. So it's on the higher end of your fitness level, 80 to 100 zone is where I would do that. But yeah, sure. Try Weight Vest Wednesday. I think that's a lot of fun. We do a lot of Weight Vest Wednesdays. Our second workout of the week is all weight vested, pull-ups and push-ups and dips. And then Monday is typically just a nice little volume builder with a pyramid or something. So yeah, plenty of ways to do it. Hey guys, I do appreciate you checking in with me, signing in and listening. If you guys have any questions, send them to me, especially if I missed your question, stu@stewsmith.com. You can also go to stewsmithfitness.com if you got any questions about or ideas you want about training. You can use a COMPETE20 code, save 20% on any fitness programs out there. And of course, you can find me there as well. Sign up for my newsletter, subscribe to this video YouTube channel, and twice a week I get on here and answer questions. So until next time, you guys have a good one, and I will see you next Monday.